The Nigerian government has picked international book runners on a forthcoming Eurobond issue, according to the country's debt agency. The Eurobonds are aimed at raising funds for external borrowing of 2.343 trillion naira, or about $6 billion earmarked in the 2021 spending plan to partly finance the government's budget. The Debt Management Office has explained. The DMO said proceeds from the bond sale will be used to fund various projects in the budget, with the resultant inflow of foreign exchange into the country, which will boost Nigeria's dollar reserves and support the naira currency. Nigeria had planned an Eurobond issue early last year after its sixth sale in 2018, where it raised $2.86 billion, but it decided to defer the 2020 sale due to the turmoil caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the statements, JP Morgan, Citigroup, Standard Chartered Bank, and Goldman Sachs were approved as international bookrunners joint lead managers. Chapel Hill Denham was appointed as the Nigerian bookrunner, FSDH Merchant Bank as the financial advisor, White and Case LLP and Banwo and Igodalo as the international and Nigerian legal advisors. The statement noted that the transaction advisors emerged from an open competitive bidding process as outlined in the Public Procurement Act 2007 as amended. With the approval of the transaction advisors by FEC, the Debt Management Office will now accelerate activities towards the issuance of the Eurobonds, the statement partly reads. It said the Eurobonds will be used as one of the tools for raising 2.343 trillion naira, which is about $6.2 billion debt to cover the 2021 Appropriation Act deficit. So, is Nigeria set for a new Eurobond sale? That is the big question we'll be asking on Business Edge this morning. I am Leko Onobanjo. You are welcome. This is Business Edge. And joining me are the Managing Director, Charles Bank Capital Management Limited, Aziz Lawal, and Osea Jayi, who is the Head Research ARM Securities. Many thanks for joining me, gentlemen. Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show this morning.
Okay, so Osea, you are welcome. Now, let's start with you before we have Aziz Lawal joining the conversation. Now, it has actually become a normal of some sort for the Nigerian government to engage local and foreign fund managers when applying for international bonds. But does this not impede the integrity of Nigerian fund managers who already conduct businesses on the international market?
I wouldn't put it that way. I mean, what's happening in international debt markets, in carrying out this process, you would find that it is required that you have players on the international scene as well as players on the other side who are going to engage in the process of the road shows and running the books to ensure that there is a wide array, or they're able to gather interest in those instruments. So. On the domestic front, while our players might have, connects and links or relations with international players as well, it would be somewhat difficult garnering, interest in this instrument, or speaking to international players or international investors who want to put money in this thing who want to put money in this Eurobond from Nigeria without, having that international or that strong international backing from a well-recognized international institution, which we have seen so far with the appointment of Standard Chartered, HSBC, and JP Morgan over the last couple of years.
All right, now, also, now the foreign fund manager will be paid in dollars, as we've been told, since they are, of course, American firms. But then how could they, would you say that they might probably accept payment maybe later on after the bond sales have been effected, considering the fact that Nigeria is currently not financially solvent? What do you see to that?
So in the process of raising the Eurobonds, portion of the funds which will be raised will be earmarked as payments for as payments to parties, all parties involved in the transactions. So up until then, I wouldn't say the DMO would go out of its way to seek out FX to make payments to the international players on the other side prior to the completion of the transaction or the capital or the capital raise. So up until then, there would be I doubt there would be any payments to them, and when the funds are raised, proceeds will then part of the proceeds will then be earmarked as payments to all players, both on the domestic and international fronts. Even same thing, same way you would apply for domestic capital raising, and of course all of these would have been agreed upon in the process of engaging or drafting contracts with these international banks.
Now, Patience Onihar, who is the Director General of the Department of the Debt Management Office, I beg your pardon, said the amounts to be raised would be within the foreign borrowing plans for the year 2021. Now, the country budgeted to raise 2.34 trillion naira now from foreign sources. Now, let's be fair and honest with ourselves. Is it healthy? Is it a healthy move to keep borrowing or to keep raising this sort of bonds, which is in a way a kind of borrowing also without having to further plunge ourselves into debt? Would you say it's a safe move?
So the problem would not be the borrowing. The problem would be, if any at all, would be what would the use of proceeds from the borrowing, and the funds being deployed into projects which will eventually generate some form of revenue or some capital that will go back into repayments of these Eurobonds, or are the funds just going to be deployed into recurrent expenditure, which will generally not yield any significant returns for the government. So it's not really about the borrowing; it's about the use of the proceeds, and then whether or not the proceeds of the proceeds will be deployed into viable projects that generate any significant returns to serve as part of the repayments plan for the Eurobond. So it's really not about borrowing. I mean, ultimately, the government knows that there is a need, to make these international repayments and make these repayments on time as well. And considering that it is it's backed by the full faith of the federal government, you would not expect to see any default. In fact, chances of default are pretty low. But we cannot allude to the fact that there is a need to tap the international debt market, not just because of the funding gaps or to plug the deficits in the budget, but also as a means to sort of ease the pressure on the currency and also to strengthen our FX reserves.
All right. Now, many have been expecting Nigeria to issue these Euro bonds, considering the performances of others when you look at countries like Ghana and Kenya. But then why did the government delay in issuing the bonds up to now? Is there any cogent reason as attached to that?
I mean, if you look at the current macroeconomic environment, even beyond the macro environment, the world is really just recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. Economies are just kickstarting. We're starting to see a rebound in economic activity, different places across, different parts of the world. And then, raising these funds prior to now at an earlier stage might have, forced, the governments to raise rates much higher or to raise the yield on instruments much higher than they would have liked because of the, state of the macro environment globally. But now that we've seen some relative calm across markets in the world, it's no surprise that this offer is coming in this particular period.
All right, also we just get to take a break for now. We get to rejoin you and take some of your other reactions as regards the Euro bonds. All right, so Ose is letting us know this morning that, of course, there is no problem if we have to tap into international resource in order to raise the amount of money we need to finance the budget or to meet up with our financial obligations as a country that has a Nigerian government. But, of course, it has to do more with the expenditure of the finance, the money you are getting. in what areas are you spending the cash? What are you hoping to gain at the end of the day? Is it for further plunging us into death, or it's some sort of cushioning for the Nigerian government in meeting up with its expectation, and of course seeing foreign investments come into the country as regards these funds and the way it's been expended? Well, we get to look at this more, and of course we get to look at other issues which has to do with maybe the Nigerian government should focus more on cutting down on costs so that they don't further plunge themselves into debt. All right, let's quickly go for this break, and when we return, we get to consider other issues surrounding the Eurobonds that the Nigerian government is about venturing into. To stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on Business Edge. Well, it's no news anymore that Nigeria is set for a new Eurobond sale, and we have been taking a look at this. We are trying to find out if it is viable, if it is a wise move, and if it will help Nigeria meet up with its financial obligations. We have been speaking with Ose Ajayi, who is the head research on ARM Securities, and we are glad to announce that Aziz Lawal has also joined the conversation. He's the MD, Trust Bank Capital Management Limited. Aziz Lawal, I want to believe you're there.
Good morning, I'm here. Thank you for having me.
All right, that's nice. Now, let me quickly take a reaction from Lawal now. What is your take as regards this? Now, okay, yeah. All right, beautiful. All right, so let me take your reaction, Lawal. Now, the country has been in talks with the World Bank for a $1.5 billion loan for approvals that have been delayed due to concerns over reforms to its currency. Nigeria is now venturing into bonds. One question people are asking is, don't you think the Nigerian government should be looking inwards and be thinking about how to cut down cost of governance to meet its financial obligations instead of venturing into Eurobonds when we have a whole lot of loans and debts to service? What's your take, Lawal?
I mean, thank you for the question. I mean, the reality of asking politicians to cut down costs at this point is actually a kind of illusion, right? It's almost never going to happen. And we know that in terms of funds, we have serious liquidity squeeze. I think what we should bother about more as a nation or as a people that wants to fight government is whatever government is bringing in, whatever they are collecting in form of debts, we should more focus on what is government using it for, rather than ask government to cut costs, because that's an illusion that's never going to happen. Right. So we know that we presently have a wide deficit that has to be funded. And one of the options to fund such is external borrowing. Government has to do that. It's not like they have so many options like that or viable options. It seems to be one of the viable option that has to be taken. So for me, government cutting down costs, I really won't expend any energy on that, because it's an illusion. But rather, I'll focus on, okay, fine, they are bringing in funds. What are they going to use it for? And for the 1.5 billion World Bank funding, I mean, it's been around for some time now. But the realities of Eurobond and the option of also the SDR from IMF, I mean, become options that can easily replace those. Yeah, thank you.
All right, let me go back to Ose now. The intended money from these bond sales we've been able to establish is expected to fund the execution of the 2021 budget. You mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, Ose, and we've also been able to establish the fact that it has the possibility of bringing in foreign exchange. Now, the question is, will this greatly impact on the Naira and ease its devaluation on the forex markets? Ose?
Did you say, would it have impacts on the Naira? Of course, it's going to have impacts on the Naira. Having that money coming into the system will definitely ease some of the pressure on the currency. will definitely support the reserve base as well. So those are some of the perks or the benefits that we're going to see on the currency front. I mean, demand for FX has been elevated for a while now. There has been a lot of pressure on the reserves. So far in the year, the reserves have shared almost 6%. So all of these funds coming and all of these funds projected to come in should definitely, ease some pressure on the currency, ease some pressure on the reserves, and leave the CBN in a relatively comfortable position, a comfortable position enough to attend to some of the liquidity squeeze, clear up some of the backlog, the FX backlog in the system, and ensure the consistent supply to banks for customers like you and I who will be seeking to get FX from the sources.
All right, let me go back to Lawal. Now, Nigerians are wanting to know, they are asking the question, who actually determines or who should determine the percentage yield of the bonds and duration? Is it the government or the fund managers? We need to understand that. Lawal, I can see us smiling. Probably you have something to say when Lawal is done too. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, who should determine the...
Yes, the percentage yield of bonds now. Should it be the government or the fund managers?
I mean, I was particular about it when you said Nigerians are asking who should determine. So Nigerians like asking what they can't change, right? It's the markets that will determine what the yield will be. And I mean, part of the market player in this case now is the fund managers. So it is for us to determine and not Nigerians, really. Yeah, so that's that's the much I can say on that.
Okay, Osei, would you like to react to that briefly?
Aziz is very correct. The market is going to determine what the yield on the instrument is going to be, or on the various tenors, what the yields will be. Of course, there will be several considerations for Nigeria's repayment ability, the state of the macro environment, and of course, peer comparison as well. What's obtainable in similar countries like Nigeria, and then of course the addition of a premium to get to attract interest regardless of or in light of the current state of the macro environment and peer comparison, and on the balance of factors, considering all of these, it would essentially come down to all of these factors at play, but like as it said, largely determined by the market.
All right, largely determined by the market. But then another question I would like to also put out to you guys, or to understand, is the fact that at what percentage would you estimate such a bond, at a bond of this magnitude, at what percentage do you think it should be pegged at? Anybody would like to attempt that? Okay, Lawal, what do you think? Hello, Lawal.
So that percentage, like we mentioned earlier, it would be left to the market to determine. So it will be the market, of course, the fund managers in the market would be analyzing all the risks and all the alternative options as well, and then they will come to a yield at which is believed, is well priced for that instrument. Of course, considering the tenors on the instruments, considering whether or not there will be any embedded options, which we seriously doubt. But it would be sort of difficult for us to put a number to it, to give you a number to it right now, because a number of factors are being considered, a number of options are being weighed, and then unless or until we are privy to all of this information, our own estimates, just might be well off what the fund managers and the market might be considering.
All right, let me quickly take Lawal's reaction. I want to believe that is listening to us right now. Let's talk about the Nigerian government briefly. Now, in order for it to be a win-win situation, for a reason, of course, to be able to pay back those bonds, now, what do you think they should be doing and doing right to ensure that it's a win-win situation for them?
What they should be doing right Again, that takes us back to the first reaction, which is more of what government is going to do with the money. Like I said initially, that I mean, the immediate impact of receiving this fund in the first place is that it impacts on FX in the sense that it kind of strengthens the naira in terms of liquidity and the fact that the value also appreciates. And in fact, it's already projected that it may break the 500 psychological line if this money comes in, or even the speculation is enough to take it below 500 naira. So that said, on what government should be doing with it, right?
Yes.
I mean, there are backlogs, right? There are backlogs, and but primarily, it is to fund the existing deficit in the budget. Is part of the borrowing plan of the government that the existing deficit is going to be funded by Eurobond, by external borrowing, which is Eurobond in this case. So, what specifically those monies are going to be applied on for now? There's really no clarity on that. What we know for sure is that it is meant to fund a deficit in the budget. That's the plan for now. What they will do, I mean, we can sit here and be talking about infrastructures, right? But then for now, there's no clarity around specifically what they are going to commit those funds to, except that we know as market players that what naturally happens when such funds or when speculations about such funds happen is that it strengthens the naira, it strengthens the reserves. I mean, if you get 3 billion, for example, that's about 10% of the reserve itself. That helps ease the pressure on naira and also softens the mind of foreign investors that may want to come into the system. So we know of the impact, but what the government is going to use it to do specifically, I may not be able to say that now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Aziz Lawal and Osei Ajayi, for being part of discussion this morning on Business Edge. Really appreciate your time that you have accorded to us. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so it's not just about Eurobond sales now. It's about what you want to use the money for. That is what the Nigerian government is hoping to expend the money into to fund the deficits in the budget to be able to meet up with these expeditions and so many other stuff that they need to use the money for so that it can be beneficial for them. It should have a clear-cut idea. It should have a clear-cut agenda so that when these funds starts rolling in and start expending it, Nigerians can be able to say that they will see the benefits of the money being realized from the Eurobond sale. All right, so we go for a break right now, and when we return, it will be time for NC4 to watch. Do stay with us. And these are the stories we're tracking on NC4 to watch. The Central Bank of Kenya received bids worth 23.9 billion Kenyan shillings at the weekly Treasury bills auction, representing a performance of 99.76% out of the 24 billion Kenyan shillings that was on offer. It accepted a total amount of 22.9 billion Kenyan shillings, made up of 21.2 billion Kenyan shillings in competitive bids and 1.7 billion Kenyan shillings in non-competitive bids. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has reshuffled his cabinet, and the biggest upset is the change of the finance minister. Now, Enoch Godongwana is replacing Tito Mboweni. Mboweni came into the finance ministry with Ramaphosa wanting Mboweni in to restore confidence ahead of the 2019 national elections. A Nigerian digital freight and hauling company, MVX, announced on Thursday it had raised a $1.3 million seed round to set up its efforts to help shippers move their cargo faster. Launched in 2019 by Tonye Membere Otaji and Tobia Mushon, after securing a $100,000 pre-seed investment from We Capital, a Pan-African VC firm, MVX is a tech-driven maritime platform that matches vessel charter requests with available offshore support vessels. It has a presence in Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda. World food prices eased for a second month in a row in July, reflecting declines for cereals, vegetable oils, and dairy products, but remained up nearly a third over the past year, the United Nations Food Agency said on Thursday. The Food and Agriculture Organization's Food Price Index, which tracks international prices of the most globally traded food commodities, averaged 123.0 points last month as compared with 124.6 in June. And that's the size of our package on Business Edge. Many thanks for being part of it. Of course, do not forget that you can visit all our social media platforms. We are at News Central TV and be part of the conversation. Do not forget that you can download our app on App Store and Play Store and drop a comment so that we can get a feedback from you. Many thanks for watching. Have a beautiful day. My name is Liko Onobanjo.